It's now my honor to introduce our speakers representing each of the classes to give their reflections on this day. And we'll start with our PhD class, Delia Kimbrel.
Welcome, everyone. I want to share a story with you all that began when I was 8 years old. My mom and I were driving from one side of town to the other, and I was looking out the window, admiring the houses and neighborhoods that we passed. I asked her, why is it the further that we get from our house, the other houses get so much nicer? While my mom responded, these people just have more money than we do, I knew there was much more to that story. The communities that I observed that day were starkly different than mine. My community is what researchers classify as a high-poverty neighborhood defined by the U.S. Census as an area with at least 40% of the entire population living below the federal poverty threshold. These neighborhoods, where people of color are often concentrated, tend to have a high incidence of single parenthood, crime, and drugs. I later learned that our neighborhood made us hot topics in sociological research, with statistics showing that our youth are more likely to drop out of school, more prone to violence, more likely to suffer from teen pregnancy. The list goes on. Although my peers and I didn't know about these statistics as kids, we did feel the profound effects of concentrated poverty and limited opportunity that we were born into. My peers and I responded to structural disadvantage differently. For me, these conditions ignited a competitive and persevering spirit. I would not be defined by statistics, my socioeconomic disadvantage, or others' perceptions of what people like me could achieve. While researchers predict that my background alone would sediment me into the bottom rungs of society, I stand before you today as a member of the 1.7% of the entire U.S. population with a doctoral degree. While my desire to disprove the statistics ignited me, what ultimately drove me was a desire to learn why communities like mine look the way they did in the first place. When I was accepted into the PhD program, I remember thinking the assets and inequalities concentration was the perfect fit. The courses affirmed the structural forces at play and the role of public policy in excluding specific populations from economic opportunity, including the long history of discrimination in housing and mortgage lending. I also learned how research and public policy can be used as corrective measures against these structural injustices. I learned about how innovative asset development policies to promote wealth creation among low-income and communities of color. Since my learning at Heller, I've been privileged to lead my own research, evaluation studies, and help federal, state, and local agencies integrate asset development and equity-based programming into their initiatives. My Aunt Delia once said, "Those who do, do. Those who don't, sit around and talk about it." Are you a doer, or are you gonna sit around and talk about it? Her question will forever stick with me as a reminder to do more than talk, and the importance of being an active disruptor of anything unjust and inequitable. As we are reminded every day of the challenges Black people face for merely trying to exist, the challenges immigrant groups face for merely trying to dream, and the challenges children worldwide face for merely trying to live, we must remember to be doers and use our skills and knowledge received from this institution as disruptors of the ills plaguing our society. I close with a quote from M.K. Asante, a great African-American studies scholar. When you make an observation, you now have an obligation. When I was 8, I made a simple observation about the neighborhoods in my hometown of Wichita, Kansas. Since then, it has been my obligation to use research and public policy to advance communities like mine. I asked the class of 2018, what observation are you passionate about? And how will you continue to fulfill your obligation to this passion? While I congratulate you all, I must remind us to fulfill our shared obligation to use our knowledge to advance social justice. Congratulations, thank you.